Hello, good to see you. It's Monday, the 28th of August. If you're joining, thanks for joining the podcast. If you haven't yet, where the hell are you? 7 o'clock, Mondays. That's where I am. This is where I am. This is where you should be. I'm sure I'll see some of my regulars. But yeah, got a few things to talk about this week. We're going to talk about Trump a little bit. He's always in the news, but he got himself a nice mugshot. That's kind of cool. And he had a pretty cool interview with Tucker on X, formerly Twitter. It was I watched it. I don't know. It was a softball interview, but we'll talk about that and sort of the implications are with this mugshot. Also, the Jake and Logan Paul saga, feud, whatever you want to call it. If you don't know what's going on, I guess Jake was on Logan's podcast and they were kind of chirping each other about who's better boxer and such. And so we'll talk about that and maybe the potential for an upcoming fight. That might be kind of cool to see two brothers punch it out, especially if you dislike them. Two douchebags punching each other out would be kind of funny. Okay, and also Bill Maher. We're going to talk about Bill Maher. He's got his own little podcast show called Club Random. He had Vivek Ramaswamy on recently, and it was quite a good show. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. And also, I don't know if you know who she is, but Mikhail Peterson. If you know who Jordan Peterson is, he has a daughter, and her name's Mikhail. Michaela, I think it is. Just found out about her actually myself, and she's starting to go viral, which is pretty cool. Um, for some weird reasons why she's going viral. We'll talk about all that. Also, a couple light things to talk about. Tom Cruise, guy's like in his 60s. I think he's 61 right now. He is just timeless. What the heck is he doing? Is he an alien? Is Scientology a real thing? And he brought down on a ship? I don't know, but he's in great shape. He's seems to be timeless. So yeah, let's just talk about him a little bit. Also, something that I've been kind of partaking in recently. I'm not proud of this, but I've been doing it. Been watching Love Island. Garbage TV. Garbage TV. And if you're guilty of watching garbage TV like I have been lately, you'll know that it gets a little addictive. So I've been watching Love Island. We'll talk about whether it's scripted, what these kind of shows mean for culture, and I don't know, just what it means in general. So if you are watching the podcast, or if you do watch the podcast and you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. We're over 200 subscribers now, so we're growing at a pretty decent clip. Also, like the podcast. There he is. What's up, Joe? Joe was here. Yeah, and like I was just about to say, if you are watching, jump in the chat. Joe jumps in the chat, and I talk to Joe. It'd be nice to have a few more people talking and talk amongst yourselves a little, comment on what I'm saying, all that. Well, let's get a little chat going, and let me know if I'm way off, or if you agree or whatever. Just get in on that. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. Let me find my first thing here. Okay, so Trump had an interview with Tucker on X, formerly Twitter, recently, and there's been a lot of buzz over the interview because it actually, well, okay, we're gonna unpack this a little. It's over 200 million, like 230, 240 million views on this interview, but it works very strangely with Twitter, or X, I should say now, that the views aren't just because it says 230 million views doesn't mean actual views. They're actually impressions. So if you know anything about like YouTube or any of these other platforming um, or platforms, I should say, social media platforms, such impressions are actually the amount of times that it's put in front of eyes. So various different ways. It can be impressions, like with YouTube, they do different impressions, maybe on your home screen, or it's put in a feed, things like that. So with X, it doesn't differentiate between views and impressions. So because it says 230 million or 240 million views, it's actually impressions. And with something like that, I mean, you could probably look at somewhere between 10 and 20% of those impressions or views on X would actually be real views where somebody's watching, you know, portion or maybe even the whole interview. The interview is pretty long, so I'm sure there's a lot of people that wouldn't watch the whole thing. But either way, it's getting a lot of buzz. I'm going to read this article from Newsweek. Newsweek has, I don't know. Newsweek is weird. Sometimes they're good. Politically, they're weird. But let me read this. This is about actually Ben Shapiro. Uh, he kind of reacted to this interview, and this is kind of funny that they jumped all over this. It's almost like it feels like they're taking a conservative guy and they're putting him against another conservative guy, and they're just like, oh, let's create a fight here and watch what happens. So I'll read a little bit of it, and then I'm going to show you what the mugshot looks like. If you haven't seen this mugshot already, it's quite hilarious, actually. So here we go. So conservative commenter Ben Shapiro rallied against Tucker Carlson's interview with former President Donald Trump, calling portions of it Orwellian and filled with softball questions. He's not wrong. They were softball questions. It wasn't really an interview. It was more like a kind of like a sit down chat. I mean, he asked them questions, but they were softball. And again, like I said, I wasn't a huge fan of the interview. It was fine, but Trump tends to ramble on, and it's hard for him to make clear, concise points because he fits a bunch of blowhard in there. But while speaking on the Ben Shapiro show hosted by Daily Wire, Shapiro particularly took aim at a question Carlson had for Trump about former Vice President Mike Pence. Shapiro played a portion of the interview where Carlson asked Trump why Pence has been attacking him, and he said, "You've always been nice to Pence. I've never heard you criticize Pence." That's kind of funny. I can see why he'd be mad about that. Yeah, Trump criticized Pence quite a bit, actually, I think. So in response, Shapiro said that Carlson's remark about Trump being nice to Pence is one of the craziest Orwellian statements I've ever heard. "You're always very nice to Mike Pence" is an insane statement. That's like truly, that's a crazy, crazy question, Shapiro said during his show. Okay. So on Wednesday evening, Carlson's interview with Trump aired on X, formerly Twitter, at the same time as the first Republican primary debate, which the former president skipped, citing a lead in recent polling over the other candidates. I think it was a bit of a trap anyway, to be honest. I think it was a good thing that he avoided that debate. I don't think he needed to go anyway. Realistically, he's the equivalent of the incumbent on the GOP side. They're fighting to take his spot away. So why should he bother debating at this point? He's so far in the lead. The only guy that has a remote chance of catching him at this point, I think, would probably be, well, there'd be two, be either Vivek Ramaswamy or DeSantis. But at this point, I think DeSantis is kind of, I don't know. I think he's losing popularity. I don't think it was a good idea for him to kind of attack Trump. I think that was probably a miscalculation. But anyways, so here we go. The interview has reached over 200 million views on X. Like I said, 200 million views, not necessarily true. I mean, again, the impressions versus views on X, I'm sure, are a bit higher, especially when you see Tucker and Trump. And if it's being fed to people that are actually interested in Trump, probably watching that interview a lot. So it could be as high as 20, 25%, even of those views that are actual legit views. However, the social media platform tracks views by any user who saw the post, meaning that not every viewer of the interview watched the full video. Exactly. So in other words, the views are skewed. Carlson and Trump touched on a wide range of topics during the interview, such as the current Republican presidential candidates he is running against, the death of Jeffrey Epstein, the January 6th riots at the Capitol, and the different indictments against the former president. Okay, so it's a kind of fluffy article. It just kind of carries on, goes on and on. No need to really read it all, but I want to show you here. I'll show you the mugshot. There's the mugshot. If you haven't seen this yet, here it is. That is a classic mugshot. Perfect. That's like one of the best mugshots you're gonna see in a century. That's fantastic. I love that he put that pose in there. I don't even know what it says necessarily. Is he angry? Does he know it's happening? You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, it's just good. It's just a good mugshot. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people already taking advantage of that mugshot on T-shirts and all kinds of stuff. And I think Green Day already has done something with it. So, anyways, that's a band, by the way, if you don't know who Green Day is. Joe, I felt Trump Tucker interview of a puff piece. Exactly. Yeah, it was definitely a puff piece. It's cool to listen to Trump talk. if you like Trump, which I do actually like Trump. I think he's funny. It's just he carries on. He just goes on and on and on. So sometimes you're listening to him answer a question. You're going, just get to the point already. Um, oh, and you got the shirt on the way, Joe. Okay, that's pretty cool, man. I yeah, I might grab something with this. This is a great mugshot. So if you haven't already seen this mugshot, here you go. You're welcome. Um, and yeah, we'll just keep an eye on Trump, see what he's doing now that he's actually got a mugshot out there. All right. Okay, what do we got next here? Let's talk about this. I don't know if you care, but we're going to talk about it anyway. So, Jake and Logan Paul, if you don't know who they are, YouTube guys, YouTube, whatever, um, characters turned boxers. One's a good boxer, the other, not sure. The older brother's Logan. He fought Mayweather. It was a pretty decent boxing match, but I think Mayweather went kind of easy on him, and Mayweather's not really a finisher kind of guy anyway, and he's much older now, so it's like I don't know what it is, but Jake Paul actually looks like a pretty decent boxer all the way around. So he could be, and he's young. He's only I think Jake Paul's like 25. He could he could be in boxing for the next 10, even 15 years and actually have a pretty good career. So, and he keeps getting better. So, can't really say enough about him that way. I mean, his skills are pretty good. Um, so they were on a podcast together. I'm pretty sure it was Logan's podcast. And they were talking about, just various they were getting into various discussions and they started to talk about marketing of themselves and their boxing careers and such. And it kind of got into where Logan was saying that Jake stole the fight against Nate Diaz that because he wanted that fight apparently, and that kind of got into now where Logan was saying essentially, I don't know, he was saying something to the effect that Jake gets his fights because of Logan or something to that end. And they were both like balking back at each other, back and forth at each other as to who was the better boxer and such. So what I'm going to do is I'll read this article here. This is from Marca. I've never even heard of this. It's like a boxing news site, so probably all right. Here we go. Sibling rivalry takes center stage. Jake Paul rejects fight with brother Logan to settle the feud. Yeah, I guess there was some talk that they might fight each other, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. In the whirlwind world, say that five times fast, of YouTube personalities turned pugilists, the Paul brothers, Jake and Logan, are no strangers to creating headlines. Their recent feud, complete with verbal sparring and tense exchanges, has kept the global audience on the edge of their seats. As the saga unfolds, one thing is clear: the Paul brothers are not afraid to mix their familial bond with the fervor of the fight game. So, amidst the verbal jabs and public disputes, Jake Paul has steadfastly declared that a physical showdown against his brother Logan is not in the cards. Despite their differences and heated confrontations, Jake has maintained that stepping into the ring to settle their differences wouldn't be the appropriate solution. So, while the siblings may not be keen on an all-out brawl, they have expressed an interest in sparring together. However, their intentions seem more aligned with honing their skills rather than just a squared circle to find resolution. So, here we go. So here we go. What do they say here? Oh, here's what Jake said. So this is what I was talking about. Logan was saying um, that he was something about him picking the fight sort of thing, or giving him opponents. So this is what Jake said in return. He goes, "It's not your option to give me my opponents. You haven't fought anyone and you don't fight real fights. It's not your option to give me my opponents. You're not even a fighter. You do exhibitions and lost 4 years ago. So it's not like your option to give me my fights." So that's funny that he's rambling, but he's probably pretty mad when he was saying that. And then I'm not going to read this is a long article. I'm not going to read back and forth, but I guess Logan was coming back at him saying that he fought, one of the best boxers of all time in Floyd Mayweather, and that he thought he could outbox Jake, and Jake was basically laughing, saying that he couldn't. So I don't know what this is, to be honest. It looked like when you were watching, it looked just like sibling rivalry. I have brothers, so you get into you get into a puffery match and you start talking about who's better at what, and especially if you're both doing the same thing. So it did look kind of natural, but at the same time, these guys are marketers, right? These guys have been YouTubing and marketing themselves for years. So this could just be another marketing ploy. This could be something to get people interested in, in building a fight, like a super fight between the two of them, even if it's kind of an exhibition. Who knows? I don't know. I wouldn't put that past these guys. And if they are doing that, though, good on them. I mean, realistically, they acted it pretty well during the podcast. If you watch the clip, you can just look up any clip of them on Logan Paul's podcast to see it. But yeah, I would love to see this fight. I don't know about you, but I'd love to see these two punch each other out a little bit. I think there'd be a lot of ego left on the ring floor, so that might be nice to see. And plus, I think they both need to be taking down a little bit of a peg. So either way, good for boxing, I think. All right, okay, let's keep barreling through. Quiet, Joe. Got nothing to say on that one. Jake and Logan Paul not interested. And where are some of my other peeps around here? Nobody else is talking. Joe, you're scaring everybody off, buddy. You got to get your comments are too good, and they're like, I don't want to jump in. So let's get some other people commenting on stuff. I'm trying to keep the topics diverse so everybody can kind of get a piece instead of staying on politics or just very current events. I'm kind of trying to mix it up a little, and you know, because I found a couple of videos that I put out about stuff that I didn't think were going to get good hits, started to get some good views and traction and such. So, people want to see opinions on various things that are current, then I don't mind talking about it, especially if it's something I'm interested in. But let's go on to the next thing here. So if you don't know who Bill Maher is, I can't help you. I don't know. He's been around for so long. You'd be one of three people maybe on the planet that don't know who he is. But Bill Maher has a show, Club Random. It's a podcast show that he does. It's literally just him interviewing one person, kind of like a Joe Rogan type thing. Um, it's very good, actually. I like it. I like Bill Maher though. I'm pretty good. I'm a pretty big fan of him. For one, he's a classic liberalist, very centrist. Um, I would say now would seem to lean more to the right because obviously that the window's been moved over so much as far as liberalism. But he had Vivek Ramaswamy on um, recently. I don't know exactly when it was. I caught it a couple of days ago. Looks like it was the 20. Well, this article was published on the 21st, so it must have been just before that. So probably a week ago or so. It was good. It was really good. Good interview. He let Vivek talk, and he challenged him back on a couple of different things that Vivek was saying. One of Vivek's big things that he says is that he's going to end the FBI, and Bill Maher didn't seem to think much of that. He kind of clapped back on that and laughed at him type thing, but it was good. It was good. So I'll read a little bit of this article. This is from Fox News, formerly a good news, well, sort of a good news agency, but one of the mainstream media outlets. So ever since they got rid of Tucker, they're kind of going downhill. So let's read this anyway. So Bill Maher tells Vivek Ramaswamy, "You really could go far in GOP primary. You're such a likable guy." So liberal comedian Bill Maher showered GOP hopeful Vivek Ramaswamy with praise during an hour-long discussion on Sunday's installment of his Club Random podcast. "It's funny, you're such a good talker and you're such a likable guy. I think you could really go far," Maher said, or told Ramaswamy. "I must say you're one of the few guys who I find both disarming and alarming." Maher chuckled. So he kind of goes into that. And he talks about how he's disarming because he's very good. He speaks very well. If you've ever listened to Vivek, he speaks really, really well. You could confuse him with a statesman. I mean, realistically, he's kind of like smashing Trump and Obama together. He speaks like Obama, but his core backings are more like Trump. So he's kind of the best of both worlds. So probably why he's gaining um, some momentum now, because really I think he's going to get a lot of the centrist people to see they like the idea that he's pushing against the establishment, but that he's not, he's not gruff. Like that's the problem with Trump. Like you like him, but then you can kind of get sick of him a little bit. You can kind of get sick of the antics a little because you just want him to be concise and clear in his message a lot of the time. But he has to throw a lot of bluster in there. Vivek does it in a way he does it, but he does it in a way that's a lot more palpable, right? He just kind of sneaks it in there. Anyway, so he goes, and it's so this is Bill Maher talking. He goes, "No, I mean it, Maher. Double down. Look. You're attractive looking. You're young. First of all, here's a big advantage you have. Biden and Trump people hate this matchup, and they hate these two geriatrics. You're like the most not that." I think Bill Maher's a little drunk when he's doing these, because he speaks funny sometimes. He goes on to kind of talk about. He talks about him being young and maybe ahead of, like, he's too early, a little too early in, and then he also goes on to accuse Vivek of trying to, or of being a Trump apologist essentially, and trying to maybe vie for the vice president spot. For which I got to give Vivek uh, props here. He actually twice tells Bill Maher no, he has no interest in doing that. So he keeps saying this. I hope he's a guy of his word. But by doing this though, he really is kind of like hard pigeonholing himself into not being vice president, which I think is a mistake personally. I wish he would. I wish he wouldn't have said that. I wish he would kind of say I'm open potentially to something like that, um, or just not really go so hard on as to say no, because I think now walking it back is going to kind of look a little disingenuous. But either way, I got to give him credit. I got to give them both credit. It was a good interview. Um, they seem to genuinely like each other, which is nice. And for Bill Maher to actually, he's not endorsing him, but for him to not slam on him too much and actually say that he could be convinced to endorse him. And he was walking a couple of things back during the interview. It's progress, right? It's nice to see a guy um, kind of move towards more common sense, as opposed to, with Bill Maher, you get a little bit more of the established um, politicians that he seems to support. In this case, obviously Vivek's not that guy. So good on Bill Maher. I'll continue to watch, and obviously we're going to keep an eye on this Vivek because he's really kind of moving it up around. He's doing all the podcast circuits, which is probably the best thing to do to get your word out there. What are you saying, Joe? Here, I like ache, but I'm starting to. Well, wait? I can't read that for some reason. Oh, okay. Why is this cutting off? I gotta see why this is cutting off. Oh well, I'll read it here. You like Vivek? Vivek. I know I say it wrong. I apologize. I say it wrong. I always say Vivek or Vivek, but I'm starting to question him a bit. He seems to say all the right things. Always, maybe I'm being politically paranoid. Yeah, no, I agree. What the visceral effect or the visceral reaction you're getting there is um, it's the statesman. It's the fact that he sounds like a statesman, and you're probably feeling, you're feeling a bit burned by the statesman. I would I would kind of relax on that idea, because I know what you're saying, what you're feeling, because I feel it too. I just think it's, he's a businessman. He's very articulate, and he's becoming a politician. So yeah, he's gonna be that way. It's more about the message. I think we got to kind of give this guy the benefit of the doubt that all of his messaging, that what he's saying is actually concise and true, and he means it. But you never know. I mean, you just don't know with statesmen, right? Like Obama said a bunch of stuff before he was elected, and then did other things. So you just don't know what's going to happen. We'll just have to see with him. All right, let's move on to the next thing here. Okay. So, if you haven't heard of Michaela Peterson, don't worry, neither have I. So, she's actually Michaela Fuller now. Fuller, whatever. I guess she got married. but she's Jordan Peterson's daughter. And I hadn't heard about her. And then I saw a podcast, or not, sorry, it wasn't even a podcast. It was an interview with, what's his face? British guy. Whatever. Can't remember his name offhand. But anyways, I watched her on an interview and she was good. I mean, she seems to be pretty smart and articulate. Obviously, she comes from good genes. She's Jordan Peterson's daughter. So already you got to like her. But she got pretty famous for she was going through a lot of health problems too, like her dad and I guess her mom. I guess the Petersons have health problems, which sucks because I really like Jordan Peterson. But yeah, so she kind of went on a weird diet, on an all beef diet, and that got her some traction. And I guess now she's getting pretty big online. She's got a big presence on social media and such. So I'm going to read this. This is her a little synopsis of her. This is kind of bring up the speed about her. I guess she wrote this, which is kind of cool. I'm not going to know where to stop, but I'll just keep going here. So I'm Michaela Fuller, previously Peterson. I'm a wife, mother, podcaster, writer, and CEO. I'm finally thriving now, and that's what's important. But here's a brief description about what most of my life has been like. Juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. Jeez, I didn't even know that was a thing. Juvenile idiopathic arthritis. So she was riddled with arthritis. That sucks. Major depressive disorder, bipolar, OCD, chronic fatigue, idiopathic hypersomnia, rashes, acne, chronic bronchitis, asthma, insomnia. Well, she sounds like a hypochondriac, but okay. PTSD, night sweats, freezing all the time, muscle weakness, nerve pain, fibromyalgia, IBS, histamine intolerance, SIBO, I don't know what that is, multiple chemical sensitivity, environmental allergies, food sensitivities, food allergies, numb legs, red eyes, WTF. Okay, I was chronically ill until I was 23, and then I suffered from SSRI withdrawal until I was 25. Don't know what SSRI withdrawal is, but if you do and somebody wants to bring it into the comments, you'll educate me. Then I recovered, so I thought, and got sick again from 2022 to 2023 badly. When you're chronically ill, it's all encompassing. Nothing else matters as much as being healthy. Sick or injured people have one goal: how to not be sick or injured. Then after the lion diet cured me, I got sick again. Not like pre-diet, but very ill from 2022 to 2023. I finally found out about CIRS, which is chronic inflammatory response syndrome. I was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis when I was 7. Okay, let's get past a little bit. Let's get to, here we go. When I was 21, I was diagnosed with idiopathic hypersomnia, a fancy description for chronic fatigue. Okay, all right. There's a lot in here. Okay, I didn't realize it was this long. My bad. Let's give you the quick synopsis. So she got on a diet, all meat diet, like literally all meat diet. This is what she eats in a day. You're going to think this is nuts. Striploin. What else? Striploin. What else might she eat? Some more striploin. She literally eats striploin for breakfast. She has striploin for lunch, and she has striploin for dinner. And sometimes she makes a striploin soup. I'm not making this up. She's been doing this for about 6 years. But apparently she got well from this. Okay, Joe, SIBO. SIBO is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah, so she's been riddled with problems. Poor girl. Feel sorry for her. A little bit of a hypochondriac, sounds like it. Some of that stuff is pretty real. Sounds like a lot of it was diet related because now that she's been on this 6-year diet of just striploin, she seems to be better. That's weird to me. I don't know. The idea that you can just eat beef alone is strange, but she's living proof. So if you want to look into this, if you're having any kind of issues with that kind of stuff, maybe check striploin diet, or as she calls it, the lion diet. It seems to be working for her, so I'm sure it'll be working for other people. But I'm not a scientist and I'm not a doctor, so don't listen to me. But if you're interested in reading more about this girl, Michaela Peterson, formerly Peterson, now Fuller, I suggest it. She's quite interesting. And again, she's a Peterson. So if you like Jordan Peterson, this is the apple from his tree. So I think you probably like her too. All right, let's get on to the next thing here. We're at around 30 minutes, so not doing too bad yet. Okay, Tom Cruise. Like him, hate him, whatever. You have to kind of admit the guy is timeless. He's like 61 and he's still doing all his own stunts in his movies. He's seemingly in great shape and he looks pretty damn good. It's pretty timeless. Sure, there's some other things going on, uh, you know, some chemical interventions, things like that. But whatever he's doing, he needs to share it. I think whatever he's taking some kind of page out of Tom Brady's book, but I don't know. So I'm going to read this article from Men's Health. This is a really long article. It kind of goes into all the different facets of Tom Cruise. I'm going to kind of try and touch on just a couple of more to do with, you know, why he's able to stay youthful at 61. So it says how Tom Cruise remains youthful at 61 and how you can too. Okay. This summer, I don't want to read this. So Tom Cruise has been climbing skyscrapers, halo jumping from planes, and leaping from motorbikes for more than 3 decades now. What they're referring to is does all his own stunts. So he'll injure himself, and then they'll kind of have to put stuff on hold for one of his Mission Possible movies because he wants to do all his own stunts. So good on him. Uh, could it be the prodigious work ethic, a training regimen with no let up, or is it his carefully managed diet? Well, chances are it's all the above and so much more. Okay, so interpersonal skills. This just talks about the fact that he actually likes to interact with his fans, which kind of seems weird for him. I wouldn't have thought that about Tom Cruise. He seems, I don't know, just from what I've read or what I've seen about him, he seems a little bit standoffish, but I guess not. I guess I was completely wrong on that. I have to kind of eat craw on that one. So here we go. The work ethic. This is pretty cool. The interview asked him, did he learn a bit of German for the part in Valkyrie? He learned all of German. Like he learned the whole language. That's so this guy, you've seen these other actors, um, like Joaquin Phoenix, for example, where they're immersive actors. They get right into the role and they live it. They live and breathe it. It seems like Tom Cruise is that guy. So apparently here it says for The Color of Money, Cruise played pool for 12 hours a day to prep. It says being super informed bestows subtle confidence. Uh, Everyone else will feel ease working with you and for you. You're more flexible and adaptable than your peers because whatever happens, you've covered it. Um, Here we go. So Tom Cruise's body. Says Cruise doesn't just have the body of a man half his age. He moves like one. He moves like one. Remember the Mission Possible? Blah, blah. Variety is the secret to one of those. For those of us for whom David Beckham isn't a training buddy, how we move conveys energy and youth, not how buff we are. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So he regularly switches up cardio and strength training. He does fencing, climbing, maintains flexibility and balance. He does workouts. He works out with weights, obviously. What else? He says he does a bunch of different stuff. Where is it? I don't know. Apparently, he rock climbs. Does all. I'm sure it's coming up anyway. I'm not gonna read his style, mindset. Okay. Oh, here it is. Diet. Okay. So this is where it kind of gets strange with Tom Cruise. So he's got if you know anything about diet, which I do, unfortunately, I don't follow them very well often, but I sometimes do. Anyways, so his diet, he says he does 1,200 calories a day, grilled foods, and not a lot of carbohydrates, but 1,200 calories. That doesn't seem like a proper maintenance for a guy. I think Tom Cruise is around 5'8". I'm going to say he's probably in around 160, 170, somewhere in there. Maybe 180 max. I doubt it, but he's probably leaner. So 1,200 calories. That's not a maintenance. That's a low maintenance. Excuse me. Maintenance for him should be around 2,000 calories. So or so, and considering his active lifestyle. So I don't know what's going on here. This one kind of makes me. I scream a little bit of bullshit on this one, but who knows? Says it doesn't sound nearly enough fuel for the ultra active short stack, but it's probably his youth elixir. Carbs generate insulin. and aging hormones, says nutritional scientist Dr. Paul Clayton, author of Health Defense. They become glucose molecules in the body, damaging muscle and skin tissues, which causes aging. Yeah, it's true. But if you're in an under in a calorie deficit as well, that's not going to help you age well either. I'm thinking he's probably doing some other stuff. Anyways, so as you can see, that article is pretty long, but I think this is the most important part, the diet, which again, I don't know if I 100% believe. Um, but who knows? I guess. What do you got to say here, Joe? The Color of Money is my favorite. Yeah, it was one of my favorite movies of his anyway, back in the day too. Yeah, you need 1,000 calories just for your body to run normal. Yeah, yeah. So when you start to go below a certain basal amount of calories, you can actually start to affect brain activity. All kinds of things start to happen. You can have like renal, uh, like shutdowns in your body. Essentially, um, some of your organs don't work correctly anymore. When you start to get into real heavy calorie deficit diets. So I don't know. I think he's doing something else that he's not admitting. I think that's the problem with when you release this kind of thing, you open up questions to the, someone like me or you, obviously, where you think, okay, well, yeah, if you're doing 1,200 calories in your food diet, are you supplementing somehow? Or, in this case, he's probably taking HGH, um, human growth hormone. He's probably doing all kinds of things. He's probably got a whole stack of stuff that he does to try and to stay anti-aging, but he probably doesn't want to release that because it seems, it's not sort of natural. And I think he wants to go on he's all natural and he's doing this, that way instead of using his means and money to be able to buy his way into anti-aging, I guess. But I don't know, good on him anyway. At 61, he looks pretty damn good. So, all right, let's get into the last thing here. I'm kind of embarrassed about this one, but I have to admit, okay, I watched this show. It's awful. If you watch Love Island and you love it and you're whatever, sorry, I don't mean to insult you. It's it's garbage TV, but I watch it, so I'm guilty of watching this thing. Um, when you watch Love Island, I've watched 2 seasons of it. I watched the last 2 seasons. I've kind of binge watched it over the last month or whatever it's been. Um, Again, not proud. Hack Hammer me in the comments if you want. But it's it seems scripted at times. It has a feel of that they're not necessarily that it's like that they're telling them exactly what to say, but they're kind of like saying, "Here, do this and we're going to create this kind of scene and we want you to react this way and we want you to do this." It's got this very fake feel to it for reality TV. So I'm going to read this article here. It talks a little bit about that. This is Hello. I don't know. This is a magazine, Hello magazine article. Like, so it's going to be a complete fluff piece, but it it talks about that very thing. But here we go. I guess some of the contestants, if you will, came out and commented. So, how much of Love Island is scripted? Have you ever watched Love Island and thought to yourself, "There's no way that just happened organically"? If so, you're not alone. Plenty of us are questioning whether the pulled chats, veranda moments, and explosive arguments are actually scripted. So, what is the truth? While most Islanders have claimed that the show is not scripted, many have suggested that it's not like you see on television. Speaking about what is going on behind the scenes, Liam Llewellyn, I don't know who that is, but probably one of the earlier seasons I haven't watched, after only a few days back in 2022, told The Sun, "There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that people don't get to see. On TV, all you can see is two people on a date, but there's like 30 people running around as you're dating, getting camera angles right, getting the lighting right. That would be weird. I couldn't see how you could act natural anyway, having a ton of people around, doing all these different things with camera angles and whatever." Which I honestly don't understand. I don't know why we have all kinds of technology now where you could set up 100 cameras. You just have them everywhere. And then somebody could go through all that footage. It just seems weird to me that there's people actually running around doing that because I feel like that would make a lot of the interactions that could be normal, um, you know, just authentic reactions between two people, a lot less authentic because they see five different people watching and they're acting a different way, or trying to act accordingly or whatever, right? But he goes on to say, and if they make a bit of noise, you've got to pause for a second and then go again. Maybe that was a big factor in my decision. Maybe I wasn't comfortable with all that going on and people not knowing what you're having to deal with at the time. It's tough to meet a girl for the first time, sit down and date when there's all that going on in the background. So that was definitely a shock. Obviously, it's filmed, but to that extent, it was definitely a surprise to me. So here's another person saying, it's this Jay Younger told Heat World that certain lines, including what the bombshells say when they enter the villa, are fed to them, saying, "We've been told our lines, so I'm going to say, sorry, I'm late to the party. If you say I've got a massive chopper, here I come, they're going to step in." There are certain things in there that are scripted. They get you to do things. They're very good at emotional manipulation, not saying that in a bad way. Okay. So that's how I would feel about this. If you watch this show, you know what I mean. For one, they do this stupid thing that I can't stand, but they do it all the time, where they get a text message and they got a text. Everybody reacts and freaks out. That's not a normal reaction. Who's doing that? It's so stupid. But they've obviously been told to do that. It's as with any of these kind of shows. I'm sure it's going to be the person that does more of that, that acts more that way, that is going to get on the show. They're going to be more in line with whatever these producers are looking for. So, anyways, so I think the verdict on this show would be that it's one of those things where it's not scripted completely. I'm sure there are scripts too, like at times, but it's more so that it's they're directing them in a way to do different things. So I would say that probably if there's like a situation between two people, they've probably they've somehow manipulated that situation to happen because they think it's going to be good for TV. And then they maybe will send someone else in there, one of the other contestants or something, to kind of try and egg it on, or, throw a little fuel on the fire type thing. It really is modern day soap opera. It's so garbage, but it does get addictive. You do get kind of vested in some of these characters, these people. I say characters are people, but they act like characters. So you do kind of get a little vested in them. So you will probably get stuck watching it if you watch more than like 2 or 3 or 4 episodes, or in my case, 60, and waste a ton of your time. So if you do like it, good on you. I guess I do too. All right. That's it. That's it. That's all I got to talk about today. Didn't really have much in the news. I didn't want to talk about. I never want to talk about politics too much. So I didn't really. I just let out with Trump and talk about other just fluffy pieces. Thanks for getting into the convo, Joe. It's nice to see you again. I like that you come in every week. Drag some of your friends with you. Make it more. We'll make it more of a conversation. But it's nice to have you jump into the conversation. If you are watching, or if you caught the live show, or if you are watching after the fact, do subscribe to the channel. Look for me on Mondays at 7 o'clock. That's when I do the podcast live. Jump into the chat. I will respond most of the time if there's isn't too many of you and I can't catch up to the comments. But yeah, and if you like any of the videos, I ask that you like them. Obviously, click the like button. Let the algorithm know that you like the channel, and it'll help to boost the channel. I've been growing a little bit, so as I start to hit some good milestones and subscribers, then we can start doing some fun stuff as a community. So if you've been around with me for a while, I'll remember you at least. Someone like Joe, obviously. You too, buddy. We'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in, Joe. And thanks for everyone else for watching. We'll see you next time.